Hello everyone, it's Night Messenger, back with another horrific true crime case. Today, we are covering the Beast of Jersey, a monster who stalked and sexually assaulted multiple women and children for 14 years. If this content is too disturbing, please click off, and I hope to see you in another video. The Beast of Jersey takes place in the 1950s on the Jersey Island, located off the French coast of Normandy. Although the UK is considered responsible for Jersey, it is considered a crown dependency. Famous for its woolen trade and cows, Jersey had a population of around 30,000 in the 1950s. For over a decade, residents of the Jersey Island feared finding a masked intruder in their homes. With no alarm systems at the time and hardly any policemen at hand, there was little security, and the community feared for their safety when a man wearing a frightening mask began stalking bus stops and homes to prey on them. This man became known as the Beast of Jersey, who raped and sodomized more than 13 people during his activity, and it all began on one desolate night. In the night of 1957, a nurse waited for a bus in the Monte-a-Lob area of the island. A man wearing a long coat with a scarf over his face approached her and beat her over the head. He then tied a rope around her neck and pulled her into a field where he sexually assaulted her. The nurse was severely injured during the attack, but she did survive and was taken to the hospital when she was discovered. She needed stitches, but eventually made a full recovery from her physical wounds. Then later, in 1957, the man attacked a 20-year-old woman who was walking home from a bus near Trinity and used the same method. He pulled her into a field by the neck and assaulted her. Then later in July, he attacked a 31-year-old. And in October 1959, he attacked a 28-year-old in St. Martin's. Bus stops and fields became the attacker's hunting ground, and all of his victims described their attacker as having a musty stench. The man would change his methods, and within a year, that musty stench would find its way into homes. It was Valentine's Day, 1960, when a 12-year-old boy woke up to find a man in his bedroom. The trespasser used a rope to force him outside into a nearby field and sodomized him. This was the first time the Beast of Jersey entered a home. However, he still resorted to his same tactics. In March 1960, a woman at a bus stop asked a man parked nearby if he could give her a ride. The man said he was a doctor on his way to pick up his wife and politely agreed. However, when the woman got into the Rover, she realized he was wearing a large coat, hat, gloves, and couldn't see his face. Unfortunately, when she realized he was the same criminal who had been assaulting the town over the past few years, it was too late, as the man had driven them to a secluded part of the island. Once they parked, he beat the woman, punching her hard in the face and tied her hands behind her back. Then he led her into a field. Once he was done sexually assaulting her, he led her back to the car, and the pair drove off. Realizing that this was her last chance to escape, the woman jumped out of the moving vehicle and began to scream. Panicked by the noise, the man sped away and was never tracked down. Later that month, a 43-year-old woman and her 14-year-old daughter were asleep in their cottage in a remote part of the island in St. Martin's. The mother woke up after midnight to hear a phone ringing downstairs. She got out of bed to answer it, but when she got to the phone, all she heard was dial tone. The woman thought it might have just been a wrong number, so she went back to bed. Until a while later, she was woken again by a noise. She went back downstairs to investigate the strange sound, but she realized she wasn't alone. There was someone in the living room, so she tried to pick up the phone and call the police, but the phone line was dead. The man had actually cut the phone line earlier when she woke up for the first time. The figure in the living room ran at the woman, demanding money and threatening to kill her. In the struggle, her daughter awoke to hear a noise and went downstairs to see what was going on. When the man saw the young girl, he let go of the woman and lunged up the stairs to the daughter. The woman, now free, ran to the neighbor's home and brought them back to the cottage to catch the intruder. But when they arrived, they only found the daughter, alone. She'd been tied up but she was still alive. This is when the Beast of Jersey began exclusively targeting children. In April, he invaded a 14-year-old's bedroom. She awoke to find him watching her from the shadows, but screamed so loud that he fled. Later in July, an 8-year-old boy was taken from his room and left in a field, only for the Beast of Jersey to walk the boy back home. It took time before the police could investigate the fear in the community, but they eventually began questioning all residents with criminal records. Now at this time, police believed a fisherman named Alphonse Le Gasteloy was their man. Alphonse was an agricultural worker and fisherman in Jersey. He was born on the island to French parents and was a humble man in the community. But the Jersey police arrested Alphonse for the attacks and the police were doubtful, but everyone needed to be looked into. After 14 hours of questioning and lack of evidence, Alphonse was released. However, with his image plastered across newspapers, angry individuals in the community assumed it was him and burned his house down. Fearing for his life, Alphonse left the island and exiled himself on a small island 6 miles northeast of Jersey. After Alphonse left, the Beast of Jersey's attacks continued and 3 more children were sodomized by April 1961. By this point, the local police were at a loss. They didn't know what to do next, so they called in the Scotland Yard to help with the investigation. The Scotland Yard told residents they needed to start looking out for each other and to set up neighborhood watches to keep each other safe. They also created a profile of the attacker from the descriptions made by the victims. The Beast of Jersey was estimated to be 40 to 45 years old, 5 feet 6 inches tall, wearing either a mask or a scarf. He smelled terrible and attacked between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m., and he invaded homes through bedroom windows and used a flashlight. Investigators realized that the Beast of Jersey had to be a resident on the island due to the frequency of attacks. They began to interview every man who had a criminal record, but none of them fit the description the victims made. Once the Scotland Yard got involved, the Beast of Jersey caught on and went silent until 1963. After 2 years of radio silence, the Beast of Jersey resurfaced. Between April and November of 1963, he raped and sodomized 4 girls and boys he had snatched from their bedrooms. However, after this was done, he went silent again, knowing that he could get away with it just like his bus stop and field tricks until 1966. In 1966, the police received a letter from the Beast of Jersey.
My dear sir, I think that it is time to tell you that you are just wasting your time, as every time I have done what I always intended to do. And remember, it will not stop at this. But I will be fair to you and give you a chance. I have never had much out of this life, but I intend to get everything I can now. I have always wanted to do the perfect crime. I have done this. But this time, let the moon shine very bright in September, because this time it must be perfect. Not 1, but 2. I am not a maniac by a long shot, but I like to play with you people. You will hear from me before September, and I will give you all the clues, just to see if you can catch me. Yours sincerely, Wait and See.
Shortly after the police received that letter, there was another victim, a 15-year-old girl who was brutally assaulted in her home. But the attack was different this time. The girl's body was covered with long scratches that were perfectly dispersed in parallel lines. After this attack, the Beast of Jersey went silent again, until August of 1970. A 14-year-old boy awoke from his sleep to a torch shining in his face. He was attacked as the others were, but this time, after the Beast of Jersey was done with him and leading him back to his house, he spoke to him, and he told the boy to stay quiet, because if he didn't, he would murder his parents. When the boy's parents found him, they were upset that he didn't speak of what had happened to him. Eventually, he told them and he was taken to a hospital, where he was examined and showed that he also had scratches down his torso, just like the girl from 4 years ago. In addition, the boy told the police that the man had spiky black hair and was wearing a frightening mask, and this brings us to the Beast of Jersey's capture. On July 17, 1971, police officers John Riseborough and Tom McGinn were on patrol in the St. Helier region of the island. It was almost midnight when they stopped at a red light and a Morris car ran the stoplight. The officers chased the driver through the streets at up to 75 miles per hour. The driver eventually crashed into a hedge and finally stopped in a tomato field. And when he tried getting out of the car, he began to run. He was eventually tackled to the ground and arrested. On the ride to the police headquarters, officers noticed a musty smell coming from the man, and when they were finally at the station, they saw the man's appearance for the first time. He was wearing woolen gloves, an old musty smelling coat with inch-long nails and screws sticking out of the collar, cuffs, and shoulders. These nails and screws were what made the marks on the young boy and the young girl, and when they emptied the man's pockets during a search, they found a black torch with tape covering the majority of the glass, so only a tiny bit of light would shine through. They also discovered 2 pieces of cord, which were used to tie up his victims, a wool cap, and duct tape. Then, most horrifying, they found a spiky black wig and the mask that he had been using to terrorize his victims. The man was identified as 46-year-old Edward Paisnel. When being questioned about what he was wearing and why he was speeding, Paisnel told the investigators he was just trying to go to an orgy and didn't want to be recognized. As for the nails, he said that he added those in case he was attacked by someone who knew martial arts, and Paisnel refused to talk about the mask and the wig he had. Paisnel remained in custody, and officers were dispatched to search his home. Once in the home, they found a locked secret room inside his bathroom. When they entered, it smelled of must. They found old clothing and homemade wigs, complete with matching false eyebrows. Continuing the search, they discovered a camera and photographs of houses on the island. Investigators had believed he had been planning his attacks for years and had many more lined up. When they asked Paisnel about the photographs, he just told them he chose his victims years before the crimes. He knew specific details about the families and their homes, and knew which windows to climb into on the night of the assaults. The police also found his shrine to Satan, which included a sword, an extensive collection of books about black magic and the occult, and an altar hidden by heavy red curtains that he used for animal sacrifices before hunting down his victims. In addition to all of his satanic objects, police later learned that Paisnel was obsessed with Gilles de Rais, a 15th century French occultist and lunatic who would lure children into his castle and offer them as sacrifices to Satan. After finding all of this evidence, the police knew they had the Beast of Jersey in their hands. The trial took place on the 29th of November 1971, and it only took the jury 38 minutes to find him guilty of 13 counts of rape, indecent assault, and sodomy against 6 of his victims. Edward Paisnel was sentenced to 30 years in the Winchester prison in the UK. Paisnel was eventually released in 1991 after serving 20 years and being on good behavior, and he thought he could return back to the island of Jersey. However, when he arrived, he was not welcome and the community chased him out. Instead, he moved to the Isle of Wight, where he died 3 years later from a heart attack in 1994. Although he was only charged for 13 counts, it's believed that he assaulted many more people than the number who came forward. And the sad part to this story, aside from all the victims who were attacked by the Beast of Jersey, Alphonse continued to live a quiet life of solitude from May 1961 until April 1975. The island he was exiled to became his home. The huts on the reef have no running water nor electricity. During the cold, bittery winters, there would be no visitors to the island for months at a time. He lived off the land the best he could, becoming an expert at finding lobsters in the expanse of rock pools at low tides. He collected rainwater, and his diet also included seaweed and seagull eggs. Visitors to the reef would often try to bring him supplies and books from Jersey, and he said in an interview that he didn't like the fish, but preferred the seaweed. To keep warm, he would pull 2 tables together, cover them with a blanket, and make a tent, and then light a candle or a small fire inside. In 1975, Alphonse decided to move back to Jersey, until his death in June 2012. He moved into a single room at a rear end of a cottage owned by the states of Jersey. He mostly kept himself locked in, and he suffered from back pain, which impaired his ability to walk very far. He had no retirement and lived in extreme poverty. There was a reason why Edward Paisnel wasn't suspected to be the Beast of Jersey until shortly after he was apprehended. Paisnel was, on the surface, an upstanding guy. He was a contractor with a wife and kids. He met his wife while working for the foster home she ran, and all the kids liked him so much, they called Paisnel Uncle Ted, and he brought the children gifts and played with them. He even pretended to be Santa Claus during the holidays. The only dark mark on his record was when he stole food to feed the hungry during World War II. The community saw Edward Paisnel as a humble, hard-working family man. Paisnel was a monster who left a terrifying mark on Jersey forever. He didn't deserve to get out of prison early, in my opinion, and should have died in his cell. If you are interested, there's a film titled Beast, which is loosely based on the Beast of Jersey, available on Amazon Prime Video. This has been the case of the Beast of Jersey. If you enjoyed this case, like and subscribe for more true crime. Good night, everyone. I will see you in the next video.